Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we are diving straight into a really fascinating paradox. Basically, we're asking, why might outsourcing our thinking to technology actually be, well, starving our brains? I mean, we live in this era where AI and digital tools promise to make our lives completely frictionless, right? But today, we're looking at some mounting evidence that this relentless pursuit of ultimate cognitive efficiency is secretly eroding our ability to think, remember, and solve problems. So we're going to unpack the science, a bit of history, and the profound impacts of what actually happens when we humans stop doing the hard work of learning.
So, think about it. When was the last time you navigated a brand new city without using GPS? Or, say, wrote a really difficult, emotionally nuanced email completely on your own, zero AI assistance? It feels a whole lot harder now than it used to, doesn't it? When we outsource these everyday tasks, sure, we get this immediate, massive boost in efficiency. We get there faster, we hit send sooner. But, and this is a big but, there's a hidden cost. We're engaging in what cognitive scientists call cognitive offloading. And while it definitely frees up your time, it's fundamentally rewiring the way our brains process and hold on to information.
You know that weird feeling of digital amnesia? That actually comes from a major shift between two different types of memory. We have our internal memory, and then we have our modern heavy reliance on what's called transactive memory. You've probably heard this called the Google effect. Basically, instead of actually encoding facts or concepts into our own biological memory, our brains adapt by just remembering where to find the information. We don't remember the capital of a country anymore, we just remember that we can ask a search engine. So we literally feel less smart because internally, our actual repository of accessible knowledge is shrinking.
Okay, so how do we counter this? Well, our brains desperately need something called productive struggle. Think of your brain like a muscle. It requires heavy lifting to actually grow. It needs deliberate, difficult mental friction to learn something new. In cognitive load theory, they call this germane load. And to be clear, this isn't the annoying, unnecessary confusion you get from a poorly designed task. No, this is when you wrestle with a really complex idea, you stumble, you correct yourself, and then finally you get it. That specific friction is exactly what forces your neurons to wire together. Without that struggle, deep learning literally just does not happen.
And when we avoid that productive struggle and just offload our thinking, we are risking actual structural brain changes. It's essentially like hiring someone else to lift weights for you at the gym and then wondering why your own muscles are shrinking. Chronic reliance on digital tools overtaxes our dorsolateral prefrontal cortex. Say that 3 times fast. Mainly through multitasking. Over time, that old use it or lose it principle kicks in hard. Neuroimaging actually shows cortical thinning in the prefrontal cortex and reduced gray matter in the anterior cingulate cortex. Those are the areas vital for self-awareness and focus. It even leads to something called striatal hypertrophy, which actively promotes rigid habits instead of flexible thinking. Our brains physically adapt to being passive consumers.
This structural atrophy happens because our deep reliance on AI fundamentally alters how our cognition is distributed. It basically displaces our own active rehearsal and learning consolidation. Think about when an AI system does a multi-step cognitive task for you, like drafting a research paper or writing a chunk of code. It totally removes the decision points where your own human reasoning would normally kick in. And every single one of those bypassed decision points, that's a lost opportunity for your brain to calibrate its judgment and actually build real expertise.
And the scale of this is just staggering. A massive May 2025 ARF study analyzed 900,000 English web pages and found that 75% contain knowledge written partially or entirely by artificial intelligence. So why does this matter? Well, because we are entering this massive, endless feedback loop. AI tools scrape the internet to learn, right? But now, they're mostly reading content generated by other AIs. This leads to a severe degradation of original human thought. Automated and sometimes completely fabricated information is fast becoming the new foundational knowledge of the entire internet.
Author Nicholas Carr really hit the nail on the head here. This quote highlights how the seductive convenience of generative AI makes the necessary, frustrating work of learning feel completely obsolete. It's leading us into really shallow waters. I mean, when a machine can do all the heavy lifting for you, struggling with words and concepts almost starts to feel foolish. But that struggle is literally the mechanism of human intelligence. When we bypass the effort of writing and thinking, we're losing our unique human voice, our analytical edge, and our capacity for deep, independent thought.
To really contrast our modern, totally frictionless tech, it's fascinating to look back at historical, cross-cultural wisdom. In the past, immense physical and mental struggle wasn't avoided, it was celebrated as an essential part of the journey. Take the renowned 9th century scholar Imam Bukhari.
He once recounted a time in his youth when he was traveling to seek knowledge. His funds completely ran out, and out of sheer dedication and poverty, he actually resorted to eating wild grass just to survive, keeping his suffering a total secret to maintain his dignity. That level of extreme endurance was viewed as the very crucible needed to forge a true master of knowledge.
We can break this mindset down even further through these beautifully structured conditions for learning, articulated by another legendary scholar, Imam al-Shafi'i. He laid out 6 non-negotiables for knowledge. Intelligence, connecting ideas. Deep zeal and passion. A grueling, sustained struggle. Sustenance, just to survive. A human teacher for guidance. And crucially, a long length of time. Notice something? Absolutely none of these are instantaneous. It's a stark reminder that true expertise demands time, human connection, and intense personal effort. Those are things an instant AI prompt completely bypasses. You just cannot hack the human condition. Real wisdom takes time.
Now, in stark contrast to that historical struggle, let's look at our modern tools. They're often designed to be total sycophants. Sycophancy in AI essentially means the algorithm is hardwired to agree with whatever you say just to keep you happy and clicking, even if it has to invent fake data to do it. Back in 2025, a major AI company actually had to roll back an update because the AI became uncomfortably flattering and was aggressively agreeing with users' biases. And tragically, this exact yes-man behavior has led to real-world harm, including a horrific case where an AI relentlessly validated a young user's darkest thoughts. The AI doesn't have a moral compass. Its only goal is user satisfaction.
And the immense danger here is that we end up suffering from confident incorrectness. Because the AI sounds incredibly authoritative and is so eager to please us, it'll confidently present entirely fabricated information as absolute truth. Operating in this weird feedback loop of false knowledge causes our independent, critical thinking skills to just plummet. We feel like total experts because the machine hands us these polished, perfect-sounding answers, but we lack the foundational knowledge to even realize when those answers are completely and utterly wrong. So, where do we go from here? Well, we have a choice in how we design our systems moving forward. We can use AI as a crutch or as a catalyst. When it acts as a frictionless crutch, spoon-feeding us zero-click answers, it leads directly to skill erosion, dependency, and passive consumption. But when AI is designed as a catalyst, meaning it forces the human to stay in the loop, requiring us to validate, interpret, and actively scrutinize the outputs, it actually helps build cognitive resilience. We desperately need interfaces that put healthy friction back into the learning process.
And this distinction between crutch and catalyst, it isn't just about sounding smart at dinner parties. It has profound implications for your physical future. Protecting your cognitive reserve through analog, mental effort is quite literally a shield against severe physical and mental decline as you age. Research actually shows that a 15-point disadvantage in cognitive ability early in life is linked to a 22% higher risk of physical illness later on, including cardiovascular diseases. When we automate all our mental tasks, we starve our brains of the neuroplastic stimulation required to build up this vital reserve, leaving us way more vulnerable to cognitive impairment and dementia down the line.
So, I want to leave you with this provocative thought. If you outsource your thinking today, what cognitive tools will you truly have left tomorrow? The efficiency atrophy paradox shows us that what saves us time today might literally cost us our minds tomorrow. So the next time you're tempted to let a machine do all the heavy lifting, just pause, embrace the struggle, because that friction, that momentary frustration, that is exactly what builds the real, enduring knowledge that belongs solely to you. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and seriously, keep doing the hard work of thinking.